Okay, today what we're doing is still focusing on angles, but this time we're looking at angles and actual shapes. So our goal is I can solve unknown angle measurements in triangles and quadrilaterals. And actually we're going to extend it to other shapes as well. Okay, so angles and shapes. First of all, there's 6 different kinds of triangles that we want to look at. Okay, now these triangles you've seen before. Okay, and the first one is what we call acute. And what it means by acute, it means that the angles are actually less than 90 degrees. So it means that A, B, and C are less than 90 degrees. Okay. We also know that if we add those angles together, right, we do know too that they have to equal 180, but we'll work on that again too. Okay, so that's one thing that we know. The next kind is what we call an obtuse triangle. And the reason it's obtuse, as I get my eraser up here, is obtuse, is because angle A here you can see is actually greater than 90 degrees. So because A is greater than 90 degrees, we say it's an obtuse triangle. The next kind of triangle, you've seen that before. Notice the little square box by the A. That tells us that it's a right angle triangle. So we call it a right triangle. And we know that it's because A equals 90 degrees. Okay, then we go to the next triangle, and this is called an isosceles triangle. And what we mean by an isosceles triangle is that we have this side equals this side. Okay, but what we know about the angles here is that A equals C. So we can do it a couple different ways. If I know those two sides are equal, then I know A does equal C. If I know A equals C, then I know those two sides are equal. So it goes both ways. Okay, and the next kind is what we call a scalene triangle. And what we mean by a scalene triangle is that A doesn't equal B, does not equal C. So all the angles are um, are not equal to each other. So it's very similar to an acute triangle. Okay, in the last triangle, you can see I have these little squares, not little squares, little dashes, which tells me that all sides are equal. So you should know what kind of triangle that is. That is called an equilateral triangle. And what it means is all the side lengths are equal, as well as all the angles are equal, and all the angles equal 60 degrees. The reason being, we know that if I add all the angles together, sorry, if I add all the, get back there. If I add all the angles together, they have to equal 180. So if I have 3 of them, 180 divided by 3 has to equal 60 degrees. Okay, so an equilateral triangle, all the angles are equal and they're equal to 60 degrees. So the next thing I want to look at is how to label a triangle. Now, to label a triangle, a couple different things happen, and let's see if I guess I'm going to have to do it this way. Vertices, so in other words, the points where the lines meet, the sides meet, are always labeled with uppercase letters. So uppercase letters are A, B, and C. So if I'm using A, B, and C, I'm going to use capital letters, uppercase. And then what we do for the sides is sides are labeled with lowercase letters that correspond to the vertex opposite. So what that means is side A is directly across from angle A. So we use lowercase a. B, we use lowercase b. And C, we use lowercase c. Okay, and that is a standard practice when we're labeling triangles. You'll see that in grade 10, you'll see it in grade 11, 12. Okay, and after you leave high school too, if you're still working with trigonometry, that is a standard practice. All right, so properties of a triangle. I know that angle A plus angle B plus angle C equals 180 degrees. And that is very important. We use that an awful lot. Now, if I'm talking about a quadrilateral, a little bit different. The sum of their angles equals 360 degrees. And the reason it does, if I actually create two, oops, wanted to create two triangles here, what happens is this triangle equals 180 degrees. And then this triangle equals 180 degrees. So that's why when I add them together, I end up with 360. So we know that angle A plus angle B plus angle C plus angle D equals 360 degrees. The next thing that we talk about is a thing called exterior angles. An exterior angle means that it's something that's outside. So what they've done is they've taken an arm, and we call these arms actually of shapes. If we take the arm and we extend it out, if we extend it out, that's what we call an external angle it creates. Now I have an external angle here covered up, and what I'm looking at when I'm looking at that is actually a straight line, right? We know that anytime I see a straight line, it equals 180. So what's happening here is when I cut it, oops, sorry, I'm not doing a very good job at straight lines today with my mouse pen. Okay, I know that these two angles, D and C, have to equal 180 degrees, which is true. So C plus D equals 180 degrees. But let's take a look at angle C. Angle C is also in the triangle, so I know that A plus B plus C also equals 180 degrees. We all agree? Not that I'm giving you any choice. So what I could do, I'm going to just show you something. I'm going to take this one and this one because they're both equal to the same thing and put C plus D then has to equal the A plus B plus C. You're saying, huh? Yes, I know, it's fun, so much fun. Now, you can see I could subtract C from both sides. And if I subtract C from both sides, I end up with D equals A plus B. So actually, when we're talking about triangles, D here actually equals, oops, hit the wrong button there, disappeared on me. Here we go. So what that means is D actually equals A plus B. And I'm stroking stuff all over the place. Get where I want you to go. So what we found was D, this angle D, actually equals A plus B. Okay. Now, if you can't remember that, that's okay because you're capable of actually figuring it out using what I just did here. Okay, so you could actually figure it another way. Now, when we're talking about a quadrilateral, okay, a four-sided object, again, I can see that this has to equal 180 degrees. But unlike a triangle, I can't get it from adding these sides together, these angles together to get this, to get angle C. So the only thing I can say is B plus C equals 180 degrees. Okay? Now, here's the type of question that you could be asked. Okay, what's the value of x? Well, x. I could figure out x by going 180 minus 75, or I could add these two together. So I could actually add 60 plus 45, and when I do that, I end up with 105 degrees. So sometimes it's easier to add than it is to subtract, but you still could get x by subtracting it from 180. Okay, the next types of questions use triangle properties, but if you notice it says solve for all unknowns. Our unknown here is our x's. Okay, so what do I do here? They didn't give me any values for these, but it's okay. These are the interior angles of a triangle. So I know that 3x plus 5x plus 2x, if I add all of those angles together, it has to equal 180 degrees. So even though we're in degrees, we can still solve this. So we have what? 10x's equal 180 degrees. Divide both sides by 10, and we end up that x equals 18 degrees. So I solved the unknown x is 18 degrees. I could then tell you what each one of these angles are. This one here obviously would be 36. This one would be 3 times the 18, and this one would be 5 times the 18. Okay, next question. A little bit harder for this one. So I have to find A and B according to this. Now, I know that the sum of the angles inside a quadrilateral equal 360, but I have two unknowns, so that's not going to help me. I also know that these two together have to equal 180. So that's the first one I'm going to find. So even though when we talk about the alphabet, A comes before B, I can't find A until I have B. Okay, so don't be stuck on finding A because you might have to find B first. And that's what we have to do here. So B is going to equal 180 minus 80. And I know you could have done that in your head without writing this down, but it's the process that gets marked as well. So we know that B is 100 degrees. So that means A has to equal the 360 minus, I have to add, I'm going to add these other three together, 100 plus 50 plus 70. My pen to move over there. And if I do that, I end up with 360, and I'm taking away 220 degrees. So that's going to be, angle A is going to equal 140 degrees. Okay, now I'm going to pause the video now, and there's going to be another part, and we're going to look at shapes that have more than four sides.